AITA for not letting my sister-in-law bring her dog to my wedding. So a bit of background. I, 28F, am getting married to my fiancée, 30M, in a few months. It's been a long road to this point, and I'm super excited about it. We've been planning for nearly a year, and things are finally coming together. However, there's been a bit of a situation with my sister-in-law, Samantha, 34F, that's causing some tension. To start, Samantha has a dog, a small terrier named Rocky, who she's incredibly attached to. I've known her for about 6 years, and this dog is basically her child. She takes him everywhere, vacations, work, remote, family gatherings, you name it. And I mean everywhere. They're inseparable. As much as I adore animals, I've always thought it was a bit much, but I've never said anything to her. Now, when we were planning the wedding, I made it clear to everyone that the venue we picked is one where no pets are allowed, except for service animals. I sent out a detailed invitation with the rules, including a section on no pets. I didn't think this would be a problem, but I guess I underestimated how far some people's attachment to their pets could go. A couple of weeks ago, Samantha messaged me to ask if she could bring Rocky to the wedding. She said she couldn't imagine being away from him for a whole day and that he was an integral part of her life. She even tried to sweeten the deal by offering to keep him in a crate under her table or outside, or basically anywhere that wouldn't bother anyone. I explained to her that I had already confirmed with the venue that no pets were allowed, and that even if I were to make an exception for her, it wouldn't be fair to the other guests who might have allergies, fear of dogs, or simply not be comfortable around them. She didn't take it well. She immediately got defensive, saying I was being unreasonable and unsympathetic. She went on to say that if I cared about her as a sister-in-law, I'd understand how important Rocky was to her and let her bring him. She even hinted that I was being selfish by not allowing her to bring him, and that it wasn't like anyone else would even notice. At this point, I started feeling frustrated. I told her I understood that she loved the dog, but this was my wedding, and I didn't think it was the place for a pet. I also mentioned that there were already a lot of logistics to consider with seating, food, and the overall event, and adding a dog into the mix would only complicate things. After that, things got even more heated. Samantha started calling me too controlling and heartless. She told me I was being unreasonable by trying to control everyone's experience at the wedding, and that if I couldn't make a small concession for her, maybe we weren't as close as I thought we were. This really hit me hard because I've always tried to be supportive of her, even though she could be a bit over the top with her attachment to Rocky. I tried to reason with her and even suggested that she leave Rocky at home with a dog sitter or a friend, but she refused. She said that if I didn't allow Rocky to come, she wasn't sure if she'd be able to attend the wedding at all. At this point, I felt like I was in a really difficult position. I talked it over with my fiancé, and while he loves dogs, he agreed with me that it wouldn't be appropriate for a dog to be at our wedding. He also pointed out that it could set a bad precedent if we started making exceptions for one guest, especially since we had already put the no pets rule in place. But then, a few days ago, I got a call from my mother-in-law who asked if I had really considered how hurt Samantha was by my decision. She said that Samantha was in tears, and it was obvious that she was struggling with the idea of being separated from Rocky. My mother-in-law suggested that I compromise and allow Samantha to bring the dog, maybe just for the ceremony or for a portion of the event. I felt torn. On one hand, I didn't want to cause a huge rift in the family. But on the other hand, I felt that if I gave in, it would undermine the entire point of having a clear set of rules for the wedding. I told my mother-in-law that I had made my decision and that it was final. Samantha needed to either attend the wedding without the dog or not attend at all. The conversation ended awkwardly, and since then, Samantha hasn't spoken to me much. It's been a week, and the silence is making me anxious. Some of my other family members have sided with Samantha, saying I should have just made an exception for her and that I'm being too rigid. They argue that it's just one dog and that the wedding would be fine with him there. On the other hand, my own family and friends have been supportive of my decision, saying it's my wedding and I shouldn't have to compromise on something like this. I'm now wondering if I was too harsh. I'm sticking to my decision, but part of me feels guilty for causing this much tension. Should I have been more flexible and allowed Samantha to bring her dog? Or am I right to stand firm and not let my sister-in-law dictate the terms of my wedding day? AITA for not letting my sister-in-law bring her dog to my wedding. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to hit like and subscribe to the channel. Your support means a lot and motivates me to create even more amazing content just for you. Make sure to turn on notifications so you'll never miss out on a new video. I'm curious, when do you usually watch my videos? While working, studying, or just relaxing? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. Thank you so much for your support. It truly helps the channel grow. AITA for refusing to help my sister with her wedding after she disinvited me from the bridal party. So, a little backstory. I, 28F, have an older sister, Rachel, 32F. Rachel and I have always had a somewhat complicated relationship. Growing up, she was the golden child, pretty, popular, and athletic, while I was the bookworm, quiet, and a bit an introvert. Despite our differences, I always looked up to Rachel and wanted to be close with her. But as we got older, our differences became more pronounced, and we started to drift apart. Rachel got engaged last year to her now fiancé, Ben, and I was really excited for her. She asked me to be a bridesmaid, which I was honored by, but things took a turn during the planning process. I've always been supportive of Rachel, but when it came to the wedding, I started to feel like I was being pushed into a role I wasn't comfortable with. The first issue came with the dress shopping. Rachel wanted all of her bridesmaids to wear a specific style of dress, but the color she picked was absolutely terrible for my skin tone. I've never been one to care too much about fashion, but I do have some insecurities about my appearance, and I knew this color would make me look washed out. I gently mentioned this to Rachel, hoping she would be understanding, but she snapped at me, saying that the color wasn't about me. It was about the theme of the wedding. I let it go because I didn't want to cause any drama, but I was already starting to feel a little alienated. Then, things got worse when it came to the bachelorette party planning. Rachel and her friends were all making plans for a lavish trip to a tropical resort, which sounded fun, but the cost was insane. The trip was going to be several $1,000s, and Rachel insisted that all of her bridesmaids attend, no exceptions. I'm not exactly swimming in money, and I had already spent quite a bit on the wedding itself, dress, travel, etc., so I told Rachel I wouldn't be able to afford the trip. She was fine at first, but then she started guilt-tripping me, saying things like, "It's just one weekend, why can't you make it work?" Or, "I can't imagine my wedding without all my girls there." I felt really bad about not being able to go, but I just couldn't justify spending that much money on a trip I couldn't really afford. A couple of weeks later, I was hit with a huge surprise. Rachel texted me to say that she had decided to rethink her bridal party and that I was no longer going to be a bridesmaid. No explanation, no apology, just a cold message saying she needed to rework the dynamics. I was completely blindsided. I thought maybe it was because of the dress or the bachelorette party, but she never gave me a real reason. I tried reaching out to talk about it, but she ignored my calls and messages. I was devastated, not just because I was no longer part of the wedding, but because it felt like she was pushing me out of her life altogether. I had been excited to support her, and now I felt like I had been completely discarded. A few days later, I got a call from my mom, who was clearly trying to mediate the situation. She told me that Rachel still wanted me to come to the wedding, but as a guest, not a bridesmaid. She also said that Rachel had been really upset with me for not going to the bachelorette party and had been venting to our mom about how disappointing I was. Apparently, my refusal to go on the trip was the straw that broke the camel's back. I was hurt. It seemed like Rachel was more focused on her wedding details than on our relationship. I had been trying to be supportive of her in every way I could, but it didn't seem like it mattered to her. She wasn't interested in understanding my financial situation or the fact that I was still there for her in spirit, even if I couldn't be there physically. This is where the story takes a turn. A couple of weeks before the wedding, Rachel reached out again. This time, she was asking for help. She told me that one of her bridesmaids had dropped out last minute, and she needed someone to fill in. She said that if I could come and help out, it would make things better between us. I was floored. After everything that had happened, after she disinvited me and made me feel like an outsider, she was asking me for a favor? I was already feeling a mix of anger and sadness, and this request just seemed like a slap in the face. I'm sure some people would have jumped at the chance to redeem themselves and help out, but I felt like this was just another way for Rachel to use me. I didn't feel like I owed her anything at this point. I had been hurt by her actions, and now she was asking me to come back into the fold because someone else had backed out. So I said no. I told her I wouldn't be helping her with the wedding and that I didn't think it would be healthy for either of us to try to act like everything was fine when it clearly wasn't. I explained that I had my own feelings about how she had treated me, and I didn't think I should just forget about that for the sake of a wedding. Rachel was furious. She texted me, calling me selfish and childish. She said I was ruining her wedding day and that I was making things awkward for the entire family. Our mom tried to get involved again, but I stood firm. I knew that helping her now would just feel like I was condoning her behavior. I didn't want to be part of the wedding, not after how I'd been treated. Now, the rest of the family is upset with me. They think I should just get over it and help Rachel out, especially since she's been stressed about the wedding. My friends have been split. Some say I'm in the right for standing up for myself, while others think I'm being petty and that I should just do it for the sake of family harmony. So, AITA for refusing to help my sister with her wedding after she disinvited me from the bridal party? AITA for refusing to let my sister-in-law stay with us after she made a scene at my wedding? So, to give some context, I, 28F, recently got married to my now husband, Mike, 30M. We had a beautiful ceremony and everything went smoothly. Our families have always had a bit of tension, but nothing major. Mike's sister, Stacy, 32F, has always been a bit of a drama queen, but we've all learned to deal with her over the years. A few weeks before the wedding, Mike and I were discussing the guest list, and Stacy suggested she should bring her new boyfriend, who we had never met. I thought it was a little strange since they'd only been dating for about 2 months, but we were still open to the idea. Mike said it was fine with him, and I figured it couldn't hurt to invite him. After all, it's a big celebration, and I wanted everyone to feel included. Now, this is where the trouble starts. Stacy and I aren't super close. We get along, but we have different personalities, and sometimes I find her behavior a little over the top. She has a tendency to make everything about her, and she's also very particular about things being perfect in her world, which has caused friction in the past. However, I wanted to be civil, especially on such an important day. Fast forward to the wedding day. Everything was going great. We had the ceremony, the reception, and everyone seemed to be enjoying themselves. At least, that's what I thought. I'm in the middle of my reception, dancing with Mike, when I noticed Stacy in the corner with her boyfriend, visibly upset. I didn't think much of it at first. People get emotional, right? But then, I hear Stacy yelling from the back of the room. She's calling out to me, demanding that I come over to her. I walk over, thinking something might have gone wrong with her or her boyfriend, but I'm not prepared for what happens next. Stacy starts loudly complaining about how I ruined her evening. She says that the seating arrangement was all wrong, that she didn't like the food, and that she was embarrassed because the whole wedding felt too fancy for her taste. She even went as far as to say that the wedding had a snob vibe, and that she didn't fit in. Her boyfriend, who I had never met before, was standing there awkwardly, trying to avoid eye contact with anyone. I'm stunned, honestly. I don't even know how to respond. I try to calm her down, telling her that we put a lot of thought into the seating and food, and that we wanted everyone to feel comfortable. But she wasn't having it. She started calling me selfish for not accommodating her better, and then the worst part. She said, "This wedding was all about you. You didn't even think about the guests." I felt like I was being publicly shamed in front of everyone. I know my wedding wasn't perfect, and no one expects it to be, but I put a lot of effort into making it special for everyone. And now here was Stacy making a scene, ruining the mood for everyone around us. A few people at our table were looking uncomfortable, and I'm sure a lot of others heard her. At that point, Mike stepped in and told her to stop. He told her it was inappropriate to cause a scene at our wedding, especially over trivial things. But she didn't stop. Instead, she started crying and stormed off, telling everyone how awful we were to her. It was honestly a mess. Her boyfriend didn't say much, but he did follow her out of the venue shortly after, looking embarrassed. The rest of the evening was awkward. I was so upset that I couldn't even enjoy the rest of my wedding. Eventually, people started asking me what happened, and I just told them that Stacy wasn't feeling well and had to leave early. I didn't want to make a bigger deal of it than it already was, and I didn't want to air our family drama. Here's where I'm conflicted. After the wedding, Stacy reached out to me and demanded that I apologize for how I treated her. She said I should have been more understanding of her feelings and that I should have made her feel more included in the celebration. I told her I was sorry she didn't have a good time, but that I couldn't apologize for her creating a scene. I told her it was inappropriate and disrespectful, and that she owed me an apology for ruining my wedding. She didn't take kindly to that, and now she's telling the rest of the family that I'm being petty and hostile and that I'm exaggerating what happened. She's telling people that I blew things out of proportion and that I should just let it go. Mike and I have had a few conversations about it, and while he agrees with me that she was out of line, he thinks I should apologize just to avoid more drama. I'm standing my ground, though. I'm tired of being the one to always give in when Stacy makes a scene. She's not the center of attention, and she can't keep making everything about her. But now I'm wondering if I might be wrong. Maybe I overreacted, or maybe I should have handled it differently. I just feel like I can't keep putting up with her behavior, especially on such an important day. So, AITA for refusing to apologize and not letting Stacy stay with us after the wedding? Should I have been more accommodating to her feelings? AITA for telling my sister she can't bring her kids to my wedding? So, I, 27F, am getting married in a few months, and the situation with my sister, 31F, is causing some serious tension within the family, and I'm starting to feel like I might be the asshole. I need some perspective because I've been going back and forth on whether or not I'm overreacting. My fiancé, Jake, 28M, and I are planning a relatively small wedding. We're having it at a nice venue with a guest list of around 80 people. The guest list has been a major point of contention because there are some people I wanted there that I had to leave off, and others have requested to bring extra guests. But the biggest issue has been with my sister and her two kids, Max, 6, and Olivia, 4. To give a bit of background, my sister and I have always had a somewhat rocky relationship. We were never extremely close growing up, and things became even more strained after I got engaged. I've always had a lot of personal goals and values that I prioritized, and I think my sister resents that I've been able to build a life that's relatively stable and successful, while she's faced a number of challenges. She got pregnant pretty young, and while I'm really supportive of her as a mom, the fact is that she has made some poor decisions in her personal life, and it has affected her ability to fully thrive. We don't always see eye to eye on things, and sometimes our conversations feel more like a competition than a genuine connection. For the wedding, I've decided to have an adults-only celebration. Jake and I both feel that it's important for the evening to be about us, without distractions, and we want to be able to relax and enjoy the party without worrying about kids. I've been firm about this from the start, and I made it clear to all of our family and friends that children would not be invited. Everyone has been fine with it, and no one has pushed back until my sister. A few weeks ago, my sister brought up her kids coming to the wedding. She said, "I'm really disappointed that you're making it adults only. It's not fair to Max and Olivia, and honestly, it's not like they'll cause a problem. You should let me bring them. It's my right as their mother." I was caught off guard because I thought I had made it clear how important this decision was to me. I calmly explained again that I wasn't having kids at the wedding, and it was a rule we were sticking to for a variety of reasons. I mentioned that there would be a lot of drinking and dancing, and I didn't think it would be appropriate to have children there. She was visibly upset, but insisted she didn't understand why she couldn't bring her kids, especially since they would behave and it wouldn't be a big deal. I told her it wasn't just about the kids being well-behaved. It was a matter of principle for me. She then argued that it wasn't fair, considering that I've attended her kids' birthday parties and other family events where I've had to be around kids, and I've never complained. I tried to remain calm, but at this point I was starting to feel a little frustrated. I pointed out that I had never asked her to change the entire nature of her events for me, and this was my wedding. The conversation ended somewhat uneventfully, but a few days later, my sister reached out again, asking if we could make an exception and let her bring just her two kids. She said she'd even be willing to leave early if they got tired, but she didn't want to miss out on the celebration. I told her no again, and this time I also said that if she couldn't accept the adults-only policy, then I wasn't sure if she could come to the wedding at all. I felt like that was a reasonable line in the sand. At this point, my sister exploded on me. She accused me of being selfish, of not caring about her as a mother, and of turning my back on family. She said she had always been there for me, and I was being ungrateful and unkind. She even went so far as to say that if her kids couldn't come, then she wouldn't come either, and she'd just send her regrets. I won't lie, hearing that really stung. I love my sister, and I had hoped she would be understanding of my decision, even if she didn't agree with it. But I also can't just change the entire tone and focus of my wedding to accommodate her kids, especially when I've already made my boundaries clear. Jake was supportive of me, but I could tell he was also uncomfortable with how tense things were getting. Since that conversation, my sister has barely spoken to me, and she hasn't responded to my last message, where I reiterated that I wanted her to be there, but only if she could respect the no kids rule. Our parents have gotten involved, with my mom calling me and saying that I'm being unreasonable for not allowing my sister to bring her kids. She said it's important to her that the whole family is there, and she doesn't understand why I can't make an exception for my sister, especially since she's going through so much right now. I'm really torn. Part of me feels like I'm justified in sticking to my guns because this is my wedding, and I've been clear about my boundaries from the start. But another part of me feels guilty that my sister is hurt and feels excluded, and maybe I could have handled things differently. Am I being unreasonable here? AITA for telling my sister she can't bring her kids to my wedding? AITA for not wanting to attend my sister's wedding after she disinvited me because of my fiancé's inappropriate behavior? So I, 28M, have a sister, 30F, named Emily. We've always had a pretty good relationship, but like any siblings, we've had our fair share of fights over the years. I've been in a long-term relationship with my fiancée, Sarah, 29F, for about 3 years now. Sarah is amazing, smart, funny, and incredibly supportive. I know she's the one I want to marry. We're not rushing into anything, but we've definitely talked about the future and are planning to get engaged within the next year or so. Now, here's where things get complicated. Emily recently got engaged to her long-term boyfriend, Jake. I was happy for her, but I'll admit, I didn't have the best feelings about Jake. He's a bit, well, to be blunt, he's a jerk. He's always been a bit rude, condescending, and frankly, I don't think he treats Emily with the level of respect she deserves. But it's not my place to tell her who she should marry, so I've kept my opinions to myself. The real issue started when Emily and Jake started planning their wedding. Emily asked me to be her best man, which was an honor. However, the problem began when Sarah and I attended one of the early wedding planning meetings. Emily had invited a few close family members, and I thought it would be a good opportunity for Sarah to meet some of Emily's side of the family. This was a small gathering at Emily's house with a few people, and Sarah was just being her usual self, friendly, respectful, and easygoing. Now, Jake was there, and as soon as Sarah and I walked in, he gave her a weird look. It was like he was judging her based on her outfit or the way she spoke to him. It wasn't anything overt, but I could tell something was off. At one point during the meeting, Jake made a comment about how Sarah must have spent a lot of money on her clothes. It wasn't the comment itself that bothered me, but the way he said it, like it was meant to be a dig. Sarah laughed it off, but I could tell she was a little uncomfortable. I decided to have a private conversation with Jake later that evening. I told him that while I get that he and I don't always see eye to eye, he shouldn't make comments about Sarah in front of me. I didn't want to make a big deal, but I wanted to set some boundaries. Jake didn't take it well at all. He got defensive and told me that if I was going to defend Sarah, I shouldn't be surprised if people started talking behind my back. I told him I wasn't defending her, I was just standing up for her. He brushed me off and said I was being sensitive. That was the first sign that things were going to get worse. A few days later, Emily reached out to me and told me that she and Jake had talked. Apparently, Jake had told her that Sarah was awkward and that she made him feel uncomfortable at the planning meeting. He also said that I overreacted when I spoke to him about it. Emily said that while she understood I was trying to protect my fiancé, she didn't think I should have caused drama in front of their family. She asked if I could tone it down and let Sarah blend in better with the group. I was really taken aback by this. I didn't think I was causing any drama. I was just standing up for Sarah and trying to make sure she wasn't disrespected. I explained to Emily that I wasn't trying to cause a scene, but that I wouldn't allow anyone to treat Sarah poorly, especially Jake. Emily said that maybe it would be best if I took a step back from the wedding planning, as it seemed like there was a lot of tension. She said that if I wanted to keep the peace, I should give them some space and avoid escalating things further. I was hurt by this, honestly. I felt like Emily was taking Jake's side without even considering my perspective. I know that sometimes people can be protective of their partners, but it felt like she was completely dismissing my feelings. I told her that I didn't want to be involved in the wedding if that was how things were going to be, and she said that was my choice, but she also thought it would be better for everyone involved if I just stepped back. A few days later, Emily sent me a text saying that Jake had expressed some concerns about my behavior and how it might affect the wedding, and that she thought it might be best if I didn't attend the wedding at all. She said she didn't want any negativity at her wedding, and she didn't think it would be fair to either of us if I was there, given the tension. She told me that if I wanted to come to the reception, I could, but I wouldn't be allowed at the ceremony. I was absolutely floored. She disinvited me from her wedding because of a disagreement with her fiancé. I tried to reach out to Emily and tell her how hurt I was, but she didn't respond to my calls or texts. It felt like she'd made her decision, and there was no room for discussion. I've been feeling a lot of emotions about this. On the one hand, I understand that weddings are stressful and that she might want to avoid drama. But on the other hand, I don't think I did anything wrong. I wasn't rude to Jake, I wasn't confrontational, and I was just looking out for my fiancé. It feels like Emily is choosing Jake over me, and I can't shake the feeling that this is going to have a lasting impact on our relationship. I'm now wondering if I should just cut my losses and not attend the wedding at all, or if I should try to salvage things and go to the reception, as she suggested. But part of me feels like I'm being punished for standing up for Sarah, and I'm just not sure how to navigate this. So, AITA for not wanting to attend my sister's wedding after she disinvited me because of my fiancé's inappropriate behavior? Should I just suck it up and go to avoid further conflict? Or is it reasonable to feel upset about this? AITA for refusing to attend my best friend's wedding because she invited my ex? So, I, 26F, have been best friends with Emily, 26F, since middle school. We've always been inseparable through thick and thin. We've shared everything, from our dreams and aspirations to our biggest heartbreaks. She's the kind of friend who I can always count on, and I thought our friendship was unbreakable until recently. About 3 years ago, I was in a long-term relationship with Jake, 28M. We had been dating for about 5 years and had even started talking about getting engaged. Everything seemed perfect until it wasn't. Jake cheated on me. I found out when I accidentally saw a text from another woman on his phone. When I confronted him, he didn't deny it and basically admitted he had been seeing her behind my back for months. Needless to say, I was devastated. I felt completely betrayed by him, but also by the fact that Emily, who I had shared so much with, didn't notice anything was off or tell me about what she knew. She had always been close with Jake, so it's not like she wasn't aware of his behavior. She said she didn't want to get involved, which really hurt at the time. After that, I broke up with Jake, and our friendship was never quite the same. I took some time to heal, but I also distanced myself from Emily for a while because I felt like I couldn't trust her anymore. She understood, though, and didn't push me to talk about it. Over the next year, I slowly rebuilt myself. I started therapy, focused on work, and just generally worked on becoming stronger. Fast forward to a few months ago, Emily got engaged to her boyfriend, Alex, 27M, and, of course, I was overjoyed for her. We had many long talks about her wedding plans, and I was happy to help her in any way I could. But then came the bombshell. She told me that she had invited Jake to her wedding. I was completely blindsided. I knew Jake was a part of her life. He's a mutual friend in a way, and they'd known each other for years, but to invite him to her wedding felt like a slap in the face. I couldn't even imagine seeing him there, knowing how badly he hurt me. The fact that Emily didn't even ask me how I felt about it before extending the invitation made it even worse. It felt like she was prioritizing her relationship with him over my well-being. I tried to remain calm and asked her, "Are you seriously inviting him?" I explained that I didn't feel comfortable attending if he was going to be there. She told me she understood, but that Jake was a part of her past, and she wanted to have him there to celebrate. She mentioned that she'd never met anyone else like him, and that their friendship meant a lot to her. I told her that I wasn't asking her to disinvite Jake, but that I couldn't be there if he was. She was upset and said I was overreacting. She argued that I needed to get over it and that it was childish to hold on to the past. She pointed out that it was her wedding, and she didn't think it was fair to ask her to choose between the two of us. I told her that I wouldn't be a part of it if Jake was involved in any way. I couldn't pretend to be okay with him being there after everything that had happened. She begged me to reconsider, but I stood my ground. I told her that I couldn't let her put me in that position, and I wouldn't be able to enjoy the day knowing he was there. The conversation ended with her telling me I was being selfish and that she wasn't going to change her decision for me. The next day, I started feeling guilty. I know that Emily's wedding is a big deal to her. I never thought I'd be the one causing tension. But at the same time, I also felt like she was dismissing my feelings, which hurt a lot. She's supposed to be my best friend, and yet I felt like I didn't matter in this situation. I know it's her special day, but shouldn't she have at least tried to understand where I was coming from? I ended up sending her a message, apologizing for being so firm, but reiterating that I couldn't attend if Jake was going to be there. She didn't reply for a few days, and then when she did, it was short and cold. She said that she wasn't going to argue about it anymore, but that I was ruining her excitement about the wedding. I didn't respond to that message, and we've barely spoken since. I feel conflicted. On the one hand, I don't want to lose Emily as a friend, but on the other hand, I feel like she should have respected my boundaries. I never asked her to choose between us, but I did ask her to consider my feelings. If the roles were reversed, I would have done everything in my power to make sure she felt comfortable at my wedding, even if it meant having an uncomfortable conversation with Jake. But she's made it clear that she's not willing to accommodate me, and now I'm wondering if I'm being unreasonable. So, AITA for refusing to attend my best friend's wedding because she invited my ex? AITA for refusing to go to my sister's wedding because she chose to have her ex as her maid of honor? So, this might be a bit of a weird situation, but hear me out. I, 28F, have a sister, let's call her Jess, 26F, and we've always been pretty close. We've had our ups and downs like any siblings, but for the most part, we've been there for each other. We've always shared a pretty open relationship, and she's one of my best friends. A little background. Jess had a pretty serious relationship with a guy, Alex, 28M, for about 4 years. They were together for most of college and into their mid-20s. However, things ended quite badly about a year ago. Alex was really close to our family, especially to our mom. We all liked him a lot, and everyone thought they were going to get married eventually. But then Jess caught him cheating on her. It wasn't a simple one-time mistake either. It turned out Alex had been seeing another girl for over 6 months behind Jess's back. Jess was heartbroken. She broke up with him, and it was a huge mess. There was a lot of drama, and it took Jess a while to move on. Here's where things get complicated. After the breakup, Jess was understandably devastated, and Alex wanted to stay friends with her. At first, Jess didn't want anything to do with him, but over time, she started to soften. He was still part of our social group, so they'd run into each other at family events, parties, and gatherings. At some point, they started talking again, and eventually, they became friendly. I was skeptical about it at first, but Jess assured me that she had forgiven him, and that it was in the past. I didn't really understand why she wanted to keep him around, but she told me she didn't want to lose someone she'd once considered her best friend, even if the romantic relationship ended badly. Fast forward to a few months ago. Jess got engaged to her now fiancé, Ben, 30M. Ben and Alex were never particularly close, but they tolerated each other. Ben knew about what happened between Jess and Alex and wasn't thrilled that they were still in touch, but he said he trusted Jess to make her own decisions. Now, here's the kicker. Jess has asked Alex to be her maid of honor for her wedding. I nearly lost my mind when I found out. I get that people can forgive and move on, but this just felt like too much. I told her that I couldn't understand why she would want someone who had been so deceitful and hurtful to her to play such an important role in her life again, especially given the fact that they had such an intense history. Jess insisted that Alex had been an important part of her life, and he was her best friend before they even got together. She argued that their bond had been something special, and now that they were on good terms, it felt right for him to stand by her side on such an important day. I tried to explain how uncomfortable it would make me feel to see her ex, who had essentially broken her heart, standing next to her on her wedding day. I also pointed out that it would likely make Ben feel uncomfortable as well. She told me that Ben was being unreasonable and that this was her choice. She even said that she didn't care if it caused drama because she wanted things to be right for her. I tried to be as calm as possible, but I told her that I wouldn't feel comfortable attending her wedding if Alex was involved in such an important way. I didn't think it was appropriate, and I wasn't going to put myself in that situation. I told her I'd be happy to celebrate with her afterward or do something together, but I just couldn't support her decision to have Alex as her maid of honor. I'm sorry, but it just didn't sit right with me. She was furious. She called me selfish and told me that I was making it all about me. She said I was being petty and that she didn't want to have to choose between me and Alex. She also brought up the fact that Ben hadn't been super supportive of their friendship either, and that it wasn't just me who had an issue with it. She said I should just grow up and respect her decisions. I told her that I loved her, but I wasn't going to pretend to be okay with something that made me so uncomfortable. I know weddings can be a lot, but this just felt like a boundary that shouldn't be crossed. She called me dramatic and said I was being over the top. We've barely spoken since that argument, and I'm really struggling with whether I've done the right thing. I know she's been through a lot with Alex, but I can't shake the feeling that this is just too much to ask of me. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to go to my sister's wedding because she chose her ex as her maid of honor. For context, I've always been really close to my sister, and this is the first time we've had such a huge disagreement. I get that she wants to move on, but it just feels so wrong to me. AITA for not attending my best friend's wedding after she disinvited my mom. I, 29F, have been best friends with Hannah, 30F, since middle school. We've been through everything together, from our awkward teen years to all the highs and lows of adulthood. Our friendship has been pretty solid, with the occasional bumps along the way, but nothing we couldn't work through. We even became roommates for a few years after college to save money and make things easier. Our bond was always tight. So, when Hannah got engaged last year to Darren, 32M, I was beyond thrilled. She and Darren had been dating for about 3 years, and he seemed like a great guy. They got engaged, and soon after, she started planning the wedding. It's been a long-time dream of hers to have a big, beautiful wedding, and she made sure to include me in every step of the process, from picking out bridesmaid dresses to choosing the venue. I've been helping her with all the details, even taking on a lot of the heavy lifting like making a guest list, organizing the seating chart, and coordinating with caterers. However, there's one thing that has always been a bit tense between us. My mom, Karen, 55F. My mom and I have always had a close relationship, but she can be a lot. She's very opinionated, and sometimes she comes across as judgmental, especially when it comes to people she doesn't know well. She's also a bit overbearing when it comes to me. Hannah and my mom have never really gotten along, and while I know my mom can be difficult, I've always tried to mediate between them. Last month, while we were finalizing the details for the wedding, things took a turn. Hannah called me to let me know she needed to talk about something important. I assumed it was about the wedding, so I immediately agreed to meet up. When we sat down, she told me she wanted to discuss the guest list. I thought she was going to ask me about one of my friends, but instead, she told me that she had decided to uninvite my mom. I was absolutely stunned. She explained that my mom had been overstepping during the planning process and that she wasn't comfortable with her being at the wedding. Apparently, my mom had made several unsolicited comments about the wedding venue, the food options, and even some of the bridesmaids' dresses. Hannah said she didn't want any negativity or drama on her special day, and it was a decision she had thought long and hard about. I tried to reason with her. I told her that my mom was excited for her. I wanted to be involved because she cared. I also pointed out that my mom hadn't been rude on purpose. She just had a tendency to express her thoughts without realizing how it came across. But Hannah was firm in her decision. She said that while she valued our friendship, she didn't feel comfortable having someone at her wedding who had been causing tension. She also told me that if my mom came, she would seriously reconsider whether I should attend as well, because it was her day and she needed to feel comfortable. I left that conversation feeling completely blindsided and upset. It felt like I was being asked to choose between my best friend and my mom, and that was a decision I didn't want to make. I called my mom and told her what happened, and naturally, she was heartbroken. She didn't understand why Hannah had decided to uninvite her, especially since she hadn't thought she had done anything wrong. My mom was hurt, but she also told me that it was my decision whether or not to go to the wedding. She said she didn't want me to lose my friendship with Hannah over her, but she would understand if I decided to support her. Over the next few days, I thought about a lot. I was angry with Hannah, but I was also trying to understand her perspective. I knew my mom could be a lot to handle, but she was my mom, and I loved her. In the end, I decided I couldn't attend a wedding where my mom wasn't welcome, especially since she had been so excited about it. I called Hannah and told her I wouldn't be attending the wedding. I explained that I couldn't be there without my mom, and I felt like her exclusion was unfair. Hannah didn't take it well. She said I was being dramatic and that I was choosing sides instead of understanding her position. She told me that I was being selfish and that I should be prioritizing her happiness on her special day, not my mom's feelings. The conversation ended with her saying that if I couldn't support her decision, then maybe we needed some space from each other. That was 2 weeks ago, and since then, Hannah hasn't contacted me. I reached out a couple of times to try and talk things through, but she hasn't responded. Our mutual friends are starting to take sides, with some of them agreeing that I should have gone to the wedding for Hannah's sake, and others saying I was right to stand by my mom. I've been going back and forth, wondering if I made the right choice. It feels like I've lost my best friend over this, but at the same time, I feel like I was put in an impossible situation. AITA for not attending the wedding after my best friend disinvited my mom? Hey friends, if you enjoy this content, don't forget to like the video and share your thoughts in the comments. We really want to know what you like and what could be improved. What do you think of the video? Are there any topics you'd like to see in future videos? Your feedback really helps us get better. Thanks for being with us. AITA for refusing to go to my sister's wedding after she banned my girlfriend from attending. I, 29M, have a younger sister, Amy, 26F, who is getting married in a few months. Amy and I have had a complicated relationship over the years, but things seem to be getting better recently. She's always been the perfect child in our family. Straight A student, popular, never in trouble, while I've always been a bit of a black sheep. I didn't go to college, I've had some rough patches, and I've always felt like I've had to live up to some impossible standard because of her. But that's a whole other issue. Amy is getting married to James, 27M, a guy who I've known since high school. James and I were never close, but we always got along well enough. However, there's been a bit of tension between us in the past couple of years, mainly because of some things that happened with my girlfriend, Lily, 28F, and Amy's best friend, Hannah. Lily and I have been dating for 2 years, and she's honestly the best thing that's ever happened to me. She's kind, funny, and beautiful, and she's been there for me through some really tough times. But she's also a bit unconventional. She has a lot of tattoos, a few piercings, and she works as a tattoo artist. She's very confident in herself, and I admire her for it, but I know not everyone shares the same view. Amy, for instance, doesn't like her. It's not that she's ever outright said it, but she's made it very clear through her actions and words that she doesn't approve of our relationship. At first, I tried to let it slide, but over time, I started to notice how often Amy would criticize Lily for things that didn't seem to matter. One time, Amy referred to Lily's tattoos as trash in front of me. Another time, she made a snide comment about Lily's piercings, saying they made her look unprofessional. I confronted Amy about it, and she just brushed it off, saying I was being too sensitive. Despite this, I thought I could still make it work for the sake of family. I was planning on bringing Lily to Amy's wedding, even though I knew Amy wouldn't be thrilled about it. But then a couple of weeks ago, everything blew up. Amy called me to let me know that she had made some final decisions regarding the guest list and that Lily was not invited. At first, I thought it was a joke, but it quickly became clear that she was serious. When I asked why, Amy told me that she didn't feel comfortable with Lily attending because she felt awkward around her. She also mentioned that Lily's tattoos and appearance would be inappropriate for a formal event like a wedding. I was absolutely floored. This wasn't just a simple disagreement. It felt like a personal attack on my relationship, and, by extension me. I tried to reason with her, explaining that Lily and I were a package deal, and if she didn't want to invite Lily, I wouldn't come. Amy insisted that it wasn't personal and that she just didn't want to ruin her special day by having someone who didn't fit in at the wedding. I told her that if Lily couldn't come, then I wouldn't either. It was a deal breaker for me. Amy got upset and accused me of choosing my girlfriend over family. She said it was disrespectful of me to even think about not coming to her wedding over something so trivial. She also said that my refusal to attend would ruin her day and that I was making a scene for no reason. At this point, I was incredibly hurt and angry. It felt like Amy was dismissing my feelings and my relationship with Lily as if they were nothing. I've always been there for her, supporting her through her struggles, and now she was basically telling me that I had to choose between her and the person I love. I wasn't going to let her control my relationship like that. I tried talking to my mom about it, but she took Amy's side, saying that I should just make peace for one day and attend the wedding without causing any drama. I felt like I was being pressured from all sides to just let this slide, but I couldn't. It wasn't about the wedding anymore. It was about respect and boundaries. I told my mom that I wasn't going to compromise on this, and that if Amy couldn't accept Lily, I couldn't accept being part of her wedding. The situation got worse when my extended family got involved. Word got out that I wasn't planning on attending the wedding, and now everyone's calling me selfish and unreasonable. Some of them are even saying that I'm ruining the family's reputation by causing drama over something so petty. My aunts, uncles, and cousins are all telling me I'm being too stubborn, and they've been pressuring me to just let it go for the sake of family unity. My father, who's usually on my side, has stayed quiet, and I'm honestly not sure where he stands on the whole thing. I've been really torn because I know this is important to Amy, but I also feel like this is a line that shouldn't be crossed. I shouldn't have to choose between my girlfriend and my family, especially when I've done nothing but be supportive of Amy in the past. So now, I'm stuck in this awkward limbo, and I'm wondering if I'm overreacting. AITA for refusing to go to my sister's wedding if Lily isn't invited? AITA for not wanting to let my sister-in-law move into my house. I, 30F, live in a 3-bedroom house with my husband, 32M. We don't have kids yet, but we have been talking about starting a family soon, and we like our space. We bought the house 2 years ago, and while we've done some renovations, we still need to make it feel more like our home. We have a good life, and we're comfortable here. My husband has a younger sister, Beth, 27F, who has been going through a tough time recently. She has always been a bit of a free spirit, never really settling down, and this has caused some issues for her in terms of jobs, relationships, and finances. I've always tried to be supportive, but if I'm being honest, I've also been a little annoyed at the way she handles things. She never really takes responsibility for the consequences of her actions, and it often feels like she expects people to just pick up the pieces for her. A few months ago, Beth lost her job at a restaurant due to some disagreements with her manager. She didn't tell us about it right away, but eventually, my husband found out through his mom, who was worried about Beth's financial situation. At the time, we didn't know how bad things had gotten, but Beth was apparently struggling to pay rent and keep up with her bills. About a month ago, Beth approached us with a request. She said she needed somewhere to stay for a while because she couldn't afford her rent anymore and didn't want to keep staying on her friends' couches. She wanted to move in with us temporarily to get back on her feet. My husband was immediately sympathetic and said we'd discuss it, but I wasn't thrilled by the idea. We live in a 3-bedroom house, and while it's not cramped, it's also not huge. My husband's work schedule is pretty demanding, and I work from home full-time, so it's important that we have our own space. I don't mind helping out when it's needed, but I was concerned that having Beth live with us would create tension, especially since she has a history of not following house rules or respecting boundaries. I expressed my concerns to my husband. I told him that I didn't think it was a good idea for her to move in with us long-term. I suggested that we help her financially with her rent or help her find a place, but I didn't feel comfortable giving her free lodging for an indefinite period. I also reminded him that we've been talking about starting a family soon, and I didn't want to deal with the added stress of having someone else in the house. My husband wasn't happy with my response. He argued that Beth was family, and it was our responsibility to help her when she was down. He also pointed out that we had the space, so why not just let her stay for a few months until she got back on her feet? He said I was being overly cautious and didn't understand how hard things were for her. I told him I wasn't unsympathetic to her struggles, but that I didn't think letting her move in was the best solution. I reminded him that we had our own lives to manage, and adding another person to the household would disrupt our routine. I also pointed out that Beth had a habit of being flaky about responsibilities. She never really chipped in when she stayed with other family members, and I wasn't sure I wanted to take on that burden in our own home. This led to a big argument. My husband said I was being selfish and unsupportive, and that family should always come first. I felt like he wasn't considering my feelings and the fact that I'd be the one dealing with the bulk of the disruption since I'm the one who works from home. I've never been one to make unreasonable demands, but I did feel like this was an issue that needed more consideration. In the days that followed, I felt increasingly frustrated. We had conversations about it, but we weren't really getting anywhere. My husband would keep insisting that I was being too harsh, while I felt like he wasn't truly seeing my side of things. Then, things got more complicated. Beth started to pressure us, telling my husband that she really had nowhere else to go and that if she didn't have a place to stay soon, she would end up on the streets. My husband started to cave under the pressure, and I started to feel like he was making a decision without fully considering the impact it would have on me. At this point, I wasn't just upset about her moving in. I was upset that my husband was so eager to let her stay without truly understanding my reservations. I finally said, "Look, I don't want her to end up homeless, but I also don't want to sacrifice my peace of mind and our home for something that might only make things worse. If we let her stay, it needs to come with clear expectations, and she needs to contribute in some way, whether that's financially or by doing chores. I don't want to just give her a free pass to do whatever she wants while we're stuck with the consequences." My husband didn't like this condition. He said it wasn't fair to make her pay rent when she was struggling, and that she would just be getting back on her feet. After more back and forth, I finally told him that I didn't think I could go through with it. I said I was willing to help her in other ways by offering financial assistance, helping her find a job, or helping her with a deposit for a new place, but I wasn't willing to give her a free place to stay for an indefinite period. He was upset and said I was being unreasonable, but after thinking about it, I still feel like I'm doing the right thing. My husband and I are still at an impasse. He says I'm being overly controlling and not understanding, while I feel like I'm just setting boundaries that are reasonable. I know that family is important, but I also think it's important to protect our own space and peace of mind. So, AITA for not wanting to let my sister-in-law move in with us? AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding after she told me I'm not allowed to bring my fiancé? I, 28F, have a younger sister, Mia, 26F, who's getting married in a couple of months. To give some context, Mia and I have had a complicated relationship over the years. Growing up, she was always the golden child in the family. Our parents, especially our mom, have always put her on a pedestal, while I've always felt like I was overlooked. Mia has always been the outgoing, attention-grabbing one, and I've often felt like I've been playing second fiddle. I love her, but we've never really been close, even as adults. About a year ago, I got engaged to my fiancé, Luke, 32M, who is amazing. We've been together for 4 years and have always had a strong, supportive relationship. He's caring, funny, and honestly, he feels like the person I'm meant to spend my life with. Everyone in my family knows him and has met him several times, and I thought that once I got engaged, Mia would be happy for me. But instead of the support I expected, Mia immediately started distancing herself. When I told her the news, she gave me a half-hearted congratulations and then quickly changed the subject. I didn't think much of it at the time, but the more I thought about it, the more it started to bother me. Over the next few months, she started making passive-aggressive comments about my relationship, always bringing up how she was so happy to be single and making little digs at the fact that I was engaged. I tried to shrug it off, thinking it was just her way of coping with her own feelings, but it became clear that she wasn't genuinely happy for me. Then, a few weeks ago, I got the official invitation to Mia's wedding. I was surprised when I noticed something strange on the RSVP card. There was a note that said, "Please let us know if you're bringing a guest, but due to limited seating, we're only allowing immediate family to bring plus ones." Now, I get that weddings can be expensive and seating can be a limited resource, but the phrasing immediately struck me as odd. I didn't want to jump to conclusions, but I asked Mia if Luke was included as a plus one since we're engaged. Her response was cold. Actually, I don't think it would be appropriate for him to come. We decided to keep it a small, intimate event, and I think it would be best if you came alone. I was taken aback. I knew Mia, and I weren't particularly close, but this felt like something more. I asked her why she didn't want Luke to attend, and she gave me some vague excuse about the guest list being too long, and that she was only inviting the most important people to the wedding. At that point, I felt uncomfortable, but I tried to stay calm. I mentioned that it seemed strange to have a wedding without the partners of guests who are married or engaged, but Mia just brushed me off, saying it was her wedding and she could do whatever she wanted. I tried to talk to our parents about it, thinking they might intervene, but they didn't see the issue. They told me to just let it go and not make a big deal out of it. My mom even suggested that Mia was probably feeling overwhelmed with wedding planning and that I should be more understanding. But I felt like this was a clear attempt to exclude Luke from an important event in my life. A few days later, I confronted Mia again. I told her that I didn't feel comfortable attending her wedding without Luke, especially since we're engaged. I reminded her that Luke was a big part of my life, and it felt like she was intentionally trying to distance herself from him. Mia got defensive and said I was overreacting and that family comes first. She then accused me of making her wedding all about me and said I was being selfish for not understanding the rules she had set. At that point, I decided I couldn't go. I told her I wouldn't be attending her wedding unless Luke was invited. Mia was furious. She called me dramatic, said I was trying to ruin her special day, and that I was being childish. She even accused me of making her wedding about me and said it was so typical of me to make everything about myself. After that, I stopped responding to her calls and texts. I felt hurt and rejected, and the more I thought about it, the angrier I became. Why would she do this to me? Why would she deliberately exclude someone who's been such a big part of my life? Now, our parents are caught in the middle. They've been pressuring me to make amends with Mia and attend the wedding, but I'm not sure I want to. I feel like I'm being asked to choose between my sister and my fiancé, and I can't do that. Luke has been nothing but supportive of me, and he's been nothing but kind to my family. The fact that Mia would make such a big deal about him not being invited is beyond me. I've also started to feel like I've been the only one putting in any effort to maintain a relationship with Mia. I've always been the one to reach out, to be supportive, to try to make things work, but every time I try, she pulls away or makes some snide comment. I'm just tired of it. I'm wondering if I'm overreacting. AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding if she won't let me bring my fiancé? AITA for not attending my brother's wedding after he tried to control my speech? I, 30M, have always had a very close relationship with my older brother, Sam, 33M. Growing up, we were more like best friends and siblings. We did everything together, from playing sports to late-night talks about life. Our bond was pretty solid, and we always had each other's backs, no matter what. So when Sam got engaged to his fiancée, Laura, 29F, I was ecstatic for them and couldn't wait for the wedding. Sam and I had always been able to talk about anything. I thought I would have the same kind of open, honest relationship with him when it came to his wedding. But things started to shift when he asked me to be the best man. I was honored, of course, and excited about playing such an important role in his big day. The planning started off fine, but I began to notice that Sam was getting more and more particular about everything, especially when it came to the speech. I'm not the best public speaker, but I'm also not terrible. I'd given a few speeches at family gatherings and some weddings before, and I always try to make them heartfelt and lighthearted. I didn't want to be too cheesy or too formal. Sam seemed okay with that first, but as the wedding day drew closer, he started micromanaging my speech in ways I found uncomfortable. He'd give me suggestions, which was fine at first, but then he started getting pretty specific about how I should word things. He even told me that he wanted me to focus more on the positive side of things and avoid mentioning anything about her childhood. He said that the speech should be about him and Laura and not about any family drama or old memories. Now, I'll admit that growing up wasn't always perfect. Our parents divorced when we were young, and while we weren't terribly affected by it, there were always some underlying issues that affected our family dynamic. That's part of our story, and I thought it was important to include some mention of it. Nothing bad or negative, just real and honest. But Sam, who had always been very private about his feelings, didn't want any of that mentioned in my speech. He even went as far as telling me that I should avoid any awkward moments like bringing up our parents' divorce or any tension between family members. I tried to argue that it was important to be genuine, but he insisted that it would ruin the vibe. I felt a little frustrated, but thought, okay, this is his wedding, and I want to support him. So I rewrote my speech to be more in line with what he wanted. But then he started nitpicking it again, asking for even more changes. At one point, he told me to remove any mention of how much our family meant to me, saying it made him feel like the wedding was more about family than about his relationship with Laura. That really bothered me, and I told him so. I explained that weddings are about celebrating the union of two families, not just the couple. I didn't think my speech should feel like a performance. I wanted it to reflect the love and history that had shaped both him and me, but Sam wasn't having it. He kept insisting that I needed to stick to the script and not make it all about family history. I started feeling like my voice wasn't being heard, and it began to feel like my role as best man was more about performing for Sam's vision of perfection than actually supporting him in a meaningful way. I thought maybe I was overthinking things, but I just didn't feel comfortable with how it was all playing out. The final straw came when Sam sent me a detailed outline for my speech. It was essentially a script, and I had to stick to it word for word. There was no room for deviation, no room for personal touches. I felt like a puppet, and it really stung. This wasn't the relationship we'd had for most of our lives. It felt like he was trying to control how I expressed my feelings toward him and the family, and I didn't feel like I could be genuine anymore. I told him that I didn't feel comfortable doing the speech if it meant reading off a script. He got upset, telling me that it was important to him that everything went perfectly. I tried to explain that I would still support him and Laura, but I didn't think I could deliver a speech that wasn't truly my own. Sam then said that if I wasn't willing to follow his wishes, I could step down from being the best man. At that point, I felt heartbroken. I thought he was being unreasonable, but I also didn't want to cause a huge family conflict over it. I debated with myself for a few days, but in the end, I decided that I couldn't do it. I felt like I was being asked to compromise my integrity just to please him. So I called him and told him that I wouldn't be able to attend the wedding as best man. He was furious. He said that I was being selfish and that I was ruining one of the most important days of his life. He told me I was making everything about myself and that I was being unreasonable. I tried to explain that it wasn't about me, but that I just couldn't go through with it under these circumstances. It was honestly one of the hardest conversations I've ever had, but I stuck to my decision. I decided not to attend the wedding at all. I couldn't be a part of something that made me feel like my relationship with Sam was being reduced to a checklist of what he thought was best. I know he's getting married, and I know weddings are important, but I felt like my own feelings and the bond we'd shared over the years didn't seem to matter to him anymore. A few weeks have passed since the wedding, and our family is torn. Some of them are supporting me, saying that I did the right thing by standing my ground. Others think I should have just gone along with it for the sake of family unity. Sam hasn't spoken to me much since the wedding, and it's really strained our relationship. So now I'm left wondering, AITA for not attending my brother's wedding after he tried to control my speech and essentially my role in the event? AITA for not attending my sister's wedding because she didn't invite my girlfriend? So this is a bit of a mess, and I feel like I'm in the middle of a family drama that I never wanted to be a part of. I, 29M, have a sister, Ella, 27F, who is getting married in a couple of months. I've always been really close to her. We grew up together, shared a lot of experiences, and I've always been there for her, no matter what. Ella and I have had our disagreements over the years, but nothing that's ever been huge. However, things got really tense recently. A little background. I've been in a relationship with my girlfriend, Lila, 26F, for almost 3 years now. She's smart, funny, and just someone I really connect with on a deep level. She's also really easygoing and has meshed well with my family when they've met her in the past. So, everything seemed pretty normal until my sister started planning her wedding. Ella is very particular about who she wants at her wedding. I understand that weddings are personal and you can't invite everyone, but when she sent out her invitations, she made it clear that she wasn't inviting Lila. I was a bit confused because Lila and I have been together for a while, and Ella and Lila have always gotten along just fine. So, I asked her why she didn't invite Lila. Ella told me that she just didn't click with Lila, and that she felt Lila's personality wouldn't fit with the vibe of the wedding. Now, I don't know about you, but I felt like that was a pretty weird thing to say. It wasn't like Lila had done anything to cause a rift or create any issues with Ella. They just didn't hang out as much as Ella did with some of the other people she invited. But even though I was a bit taken aback by the reason, I tried to let it go. I thought maybe it was just a misunderstanding or a weird preference. So, I let it slide for a bit. But then, the more I thought about it, the more upset I got. Why was Lila being excluded from such an important event in my life? She was a huge part of my life, and I really couldn't imagine going to my sister's wedding without her by my side. I brought it up again to Ella, and her response was that it was her day, and she had the right to invite whoever she wanted. Fair enough, I guess, but it didn't sit right with me. I had a long conversation with Lila about the situation, and she said that she understood, but that she wasn't going to pressure me to make any decisions. She didn't want to be a reason for me to have tension with my family. But honestly, I didn't want to go to the wedding without her. She's been there for me through a lot of personal stuff, and she's my partner in every sense of the word. I felt like it was a major slight to her. A few weeks ago, I finally made a decision. I told Ella that I wouldn't be attending the wedding if Lila wasn't invited. It was a huge decision for me because I knew it would cause tension, but I also felt like my loyalty to Lila should come first. I tried to explain that I didn't want to make a scene, but I couldn't imagine celebrating such a big event in my life without her by my side. Ella, of course, didn't take it well. She was really upset, calling me selfish and saying that I was ruining her special day over something so small. The family has gotten involved now, and it's turning into a big mess. My mom is disappointed in me for not being there for my sister, and my dad is trying to stay out of it, but has told me I should at least show up for family. A few relatives have called me and said that I should just go to the wedding and let it go because it's not about Lila, it's about family. But honestly, I just feel like I can't go there and pretend like nothing's wrong. The wedding is supposed to be about love, and I don't feel like that's what this is. It feels like I'm being forced to choose between my sister and my girlfriend, and I don't think that's fair. I know a lot of people will probably say I should just suck it up and go to the wedding, but I genuinely feel like I'm being asked to ignore my own feelings and relationship for the sake of family drama. I know weddings can bring out the worst in people, but I didn't expect it to get to this point. Ella is insisting that I'm being unreasonable and that I'm making it all about me. My friends are split. Some think I'm right to stand up for my relationship, while others think I should have just gone and supported her despite the tension. So, Reddit, AITA for not attending my sister's wedding because she didn't invite my girlfriend? Should I just suck it up for the sake of family? Or is my decision justified? AITA for not attending my brother's wedding after being asked to lose weight for the event? Okay, so this might be a bit of a long one, but I really need some perspective. I'll try to keep it as short as possible, but it's a bit complicated. I'm a 28-year-old woman and my brother, Sam, 30, is getting married to his fiancée, Lily, in a couple of months. Sam and I've always been close, and I've always tried to support him in everything he does. But recently, things between us have become tense. I need to give some background for context. Growing up, my family was very focused on appearances. My mom especially has always been obsessed with weight, fitness, and body image. She's always been critical of anyone who didn't meet her standards. Over the years, I developed a pretty unhealthy relationship with food and my body because of her constant comments and the expectations she set. I've struggled with my weight for as long as I can remember, and despite multiple attempts to lose weight, I've never been able to keep it off long term. I'm not obese or anything, but I'm definitely on the heavier side, and I have a more rounded body type. When Sam got engaged, I was excited for him and his fiancée. I really liked Lily when I met her, and I was happy for their future together. However, things took a turn when the wedding planning started. About a month ago, Sam asked me to meet him for lunch. He was very serious when we sat down, and after some small talk, he got to the point. He said that Lily and their wedding planner had been discussing the wedding party, and they were concerned about how I'd look in the bridesmaid dress. I could tell he was trying to soften the blow, but it still hit me like a ton of bricks. He told me that they'd chosen a beautiful dress for the bridesmaids, but it would look better on someone with a smaller frame. He said Lily wanted all of the bridesmaids to look uniform and that my body type didn't really fit the image they were going for. He said that he and Lily would feel much more comfortable if I could lose some weight before the wedding. I was absolutely stunned. Sam explained that he didn't want to hurt my feelings, but that the wedding photos were very important to them, and they wanted everything to look perfect. He told me that it would mean a lot to him if I could make an effort to slim down before the event. He even said that if I wasn't able to lose weight by the wedding, he'd understand if I didn't want to be in the wedding party. Honestly, I felt humiliated. I've had issues with my weight my entire life, but I've worked hard to be more confident in my body, regardless of how it compares to others. To have my own brother, someone I've been close with for my whole life, ask me to lose weight for his wedding was beyond hurtful. It made me feel like I wasn't good enough as I am. I told Sam that I didn't appreciate him asking me to lose weight, and that it felt like my appearance was more important than my presence in his wedding. I told him that it was shallow and honestly hurtful. Sam tried to backpedal and said that it wasn't about me personally, just about how the whole wedding would look, and that it would mean a lot to him if I could at least try. He also mentioned that it wasn't just about me. His future in-laws also had some concerns about my size, and he didn't want to cause any tension. I left that conversation feeling really upset and hurt, but I tried to rationalize it. I figured I could just try to focus on my own happiness and not let this bring me down too much. But then, a few days ago, I received a message from Lily. She thanked me for agreeing to try and lose weight and said that she had some ideas for me to get started. She even offered to pay for a personal trainer to help me, which just made everything worse. I felt like a project, not a person, but something that needed to be fixed. I didn't respond to her message right away, and I spent the next couple of days thinking about everything. Eventually, I came to the conclusion that I didn't want to be a part of this wedding if I had to go through all of this. I didn't want to be made to feel like I wasn't enough as I am, and I definitely didn't want to lose weight just to fit some ideal image for the wedding. I called Sam and told him that I wouldn't be attending his wedding or being a part of the wedding party. I explained that I was hurt by his request, and I couldn't be a part of a celebration that seemed to prioritize appearances over love and family. He was shocked and tried to convince me to reconsider, saying that he didn't mean to hurt me and that he just wanted everything to be perfect. He said he'd love for me to be there, but I couldn't come unless I made the effort to lose weight. I told him that wasn't something I was willing to do and that I wasn't going to change my body for anyone, not even for him. Sam is angry with me now. He said that I'm making it all about me and that I'm being selfish. He says that he's hurt that I won't support him on a special day and that Lily is upset too. He told me that I'm being dramatic and that I should just lose a little weight for the wedding. It's not like I have to completely change my body, just make some small adjustments. Now, my family is split on the issue. Some of them are siding with Sam, saying that it's a reasonable request for me to lose some weight to look good in the wedding photos. Others are saying that Sam and Lily were way out of line and that I shouldn't have to change for anyone. My mom is furious at me for not taking this opportunity to fix myself and says that I'm being too sensitive. She's constantly telling me how important it is to make my brother happy and that I'm being dramatic about something that's not a big deal. So, AITA for refusing to attend my brother's wedding after being asked to lose weight for the event? Am I overreacting, or should I have just sucked it up and done what they asked? I feel like I'm standing up for myself, but the pressure from my family is making me second-guess myself. AITA for refusing to let my sister's family stay with me after she demanded I change my entire lifestyle for a visit? So, a bit of background. I, 28F, live alone in a small but cozy apartment in a city about 2 hours away from my hometown. I'm a relatively private person, and I love the space I've created for myself. My family, particularly my sister, 34F, has always had a different approach to life. She's married with 2 kids, 7 and 5, and her family dynamic is the complete opposite of mine. They are loud, messy, and chaotic, while I enjoy a peaceful, tidy home with a fairly strict routine. Over the years, my sister and I have had our fair share of disagreements about our lifestyles. She often criticizes my isolated way of living and thinks I need to loosen up and be more social. I respect her choices, but I've never asked her to change how she lives, so I find it a bit frustrating when she pushes her lifestyle onto me. A couple of months ago, my sister called and asked if she could bring her family to stay with me for a week. At first, I was hesitant, but I agreed because I hadn't seen them in a while and figured it would be nice to catch up. But then she started sending me a list of requirements for their stay, and that's when I started feeling uneasy. First, she told me that she would need me to make certain changes to my home to accommodate her kids. She said I should rearrange my living room to make space for their toys, put up baby gates around the apartment, and make sure there was a safe area for her kids to play in. She also mentioned that she would be bringing some of her own furniture, like a high chair and a stroller, which would take up more space. I told her that I wasn't sure if that would work. I live in a small apartment, and while I love my niece and nephew, I don't have the space for all the extra stuff she was planning to bring. I also mentioned that I don't have any furniture specifically for kids, and I wasn't sure how I could accommodate everything she wanted. I was trying to be polite and honest about my limitations. That's when things took a turn. She started insisting that I could just move some things around and make it work as if it was no big deal. When I pushed back, she started saying that I should be more flexible and understanding of their needs because, after all, it was only for a week. She also said that it was ridiculous for me to expect her to just figure it out when she had kids with her. At that point, I started getting frustrated. I've lived in this apartment for years, and I've created a space that works for me. I didn't think it was fair for her to demand that I change my entire lifestyle to accommodate her family's needs for a week, especially considering that I'd been clear from the beginning that I wasn't sure how much I could do. I tried to compromise. I offered to help her find a hotel nearby, suggesting that she and her family could stay there and visit me during the day. That way, she wouldn't have to worry about the logistics of staying in my small apartment, and I wouldn't have to completely overhaul my living space. But she wasn't having it. She said that staying in a hotel was inconvenient and that I should just make it work because we're family and family should accommodate each other. Eventually, I told her that I didn't think it would be possible for her to stay with me and that I wasn't comfortable making all the changes she was asking for. I felt like I had done my best to be accommodating, but it just wasn't working. She was upset and called me selfish for not wanting to help out. She said that it wasn't fair for me to be so rigid when it was just 1 week, and that I was being unreasonable. She even went as far as to say that if I didn't make the effort, she'd never ask me for help again. This hurt, but I stood by my decision. I don't mind helping out when I can, but I don't think it's right for someone to demand that I change my life just to make things easier for them. I'm not saying I wouldn't have been happy to have them over for a visit, but the way she went about it felt more like an expectation rather than a request. After I told her no, she stopped talking to me for a couple of weeks. She eventually reached out with a text saying that I was being ridiculous and that she had told everyone in the family how difficult I was being. Apparently, my parents and some extended family members were also upset with me. They think that I should have just figured it out and that I'm being selfish by not helping her out. I feel like I'm caught between a rock and a hard place. On one hand, I want to be supportive of my sister and her family, but on the other hand, I also want to protect my boundaries and my space. I don't think it's unreasonable to expect that people respect my home and the way I've chosen to live in it. So, AITA for refusing to let my sister's family stay with me after she demanded I change my entire lifestyle for a visit? Would love some outside perspectives on this. AITA for refusing to let my sister's kids come to my wedding because they are constantly disrespectful? So, a bit of backstory. I, 29F, am getting married in a few months to the love of my life, Alex, 30M. We've been together for 5 years, and we've been planning this wedding for over a year now. It's a pretty small affair, just close family and friends, and we've spent a lot of time and effort making sure it's everything we want it to be. We both want our wedding to be a happy, peaceful day, and we're doing everything we can to make it that way. Here's where the issue comes in. My older sister, Sarah, 33F, has 3 kids, Lucas, 9M, Emily, 7F, and Mia, 4F. They are a handful, to put lightly. Don't get me wrong, I love my sister's kids, and I know they're just kids, but they have been extremely disrespectful to me and Alex for years. I've tried to overlook a lot of it, but over time it's just gotten worse, and now I'm at a breaking point. A few examples. Lucas and Emily have a habit of teasing Alex when we all get together. They'll call him names, make fun of the way he talks, or even mock how he dresses. This started when we were dating, and we tried to address it then, but Sarah always brushed it off as kids being kids, and they'll grow out of it. Well, they haven't grown out of it, and it's only gotten worse. Mia is still too young to really understand, but the older two have started copying everything they see. One specific incident that stands out was last year during a family dinner at my parents' house. Alex and I were sitting on the couch talking, and the kids came up and started making fun of his accent. He's from the UK, and while he doesn't have a heavy accent, he has a slight one that comes through occasionally. They started mocking him, calling him silly, and making fun of the way he said simple words like water or tomato. It was incredibly rude, and Alex was visibly upset by it. I told him to stop, but Sarah just laughed it off and said, "Oh, they're just teasing. You know how kids are." After that, I started distancing myself from the kids. I didn't want to create conflict, but I wasn't going to tolerate the disrespect. I tried talking to Sarah about it multiple times, but every conversation ended the same way. She would acknowledge that the kids can be a handful, but then she'd always make excuses for them and act like it wasn't a big deal. She'd say things like, "You know how they are, they don't mean anything by it, or they're just bored, they'll grow out of it." Fast forward to now, and my wedding is coming up. Alex and I have been talking about the guest list, and I've made it clear that I don't want any kids at the wedding, except for my niece, Lily, 5, who is my sister's daughter from a previous marriage. She's always been respectful and well-behaved, and I trust her to behave appropriately at the event. I made this decision because I want the day to be focused on our family and friends, and I don't want to deal with any drama or disruptions. We've already had a few issues with some of our other guests, and I just want to keep it low stress. So I told Sarah that I wouldn't be inviting her kids to the wedding, explaining that I wanted a kid-free event. I also told her that I didn't want to have to deal with any disrespectful behavior from Lucas and Emily, as I felt that would just add unnecessary stress to the day. She was furious, and things have gotten very tense between us since. Sarah called me up and said I was being unreasonable and that it was unfair to exclude her kids just because of their behavior. She told me that I was punishing them for being kids and that it wasn't their fault they were acting out. She said I was being too sensitive and that I needed to let it go because they were family, and family should come first, especially on such an important day. She even accused me of favoring Lily and making her feel left out, which I don't think is the case at all. Lily is respectful, and I've never had any issues with her. I tried to explain my side to her, how I've been patient for years, how I've tried to have conversations with her, and how I just don't want to deal with the drama on my wedding day. But she's not hearing any of it. She keeps saying that I'm overreacting and that it's not a big deal. She's even hinted that if I don't invite her kids, she might not come to the wedding at all, which is really putting me in a tough spot. I love my sister, but I just can't keep letting her kids walk all over me, and I certainly don't want them ruining what's supposed to be one of the happiest days of my life. I'm not sure if I'm being too harsh by excluding them, especially since they're still young, or if I'm right to stand my ground. I've been feeling a lot of pressure from family members on both sides, some of whom say I'm justified and others who say I should just let it go. So, AITA for refusing to let my sister's kids come to my wedding because they are constantly disrespectful? Edit. Just to clarify, I've tried to have one-on-one conversations with Lucas and Emily about their behavior, but they just laugh it off or ignore me completely. I've also talked to my parents about this, and while they agree the kids can be a handful, they've told me to just let it go since they're just kids. I feel like I've been really patient, but I'm at my breaking point. Also, some people have asked if I've considered a kids' table or something like that. I'm honestly just not into the idea of segregating the kids and making them feel like outcasts at a wedding. I want everyone to feel welcome, but I also don't want to be dealing with misbehaving children on my big day. AITA for refusing to let my friends' kids stay over after their family came to visit for the weekend. So this has caused a lot of tension between me and my friend, and I'm starting to feel like maybe I handled things badly, but I honestly don't think I did. A little backstory. I, 32M, live alone in a 2-bedroom apartment. I'm in a long-term relationship with my girlfriend, Emma, 30F, but we're not married and don't have kids. I've known my friend, Sarah, 33F, since college, and we've been through a lot together. She has a kid, Ben 7, and he's a really sweet kid, well-behaved, loves Legos, video games, and is pretty quiet. Sarah and I used to hang out all the time before she had Ben, and while we don't see each other as much anymore because of her responsibilities, we still keep in touch and meet up for lunch or dinner when we can. A few months ago, Sarah mentioned that she was planning to visit my city with Ben for the weekend, and she asked if they could stay at my place. I said sure, no problem. I'm used to having people stay over occasionally, and I thought it'd be nice to catch up, especially with her being a single mom and all. When they got here, things were a bit different than I expected. Ben was, of course, excited to be on a little trip, but he was also kind of a handful at times. Sarah has a very laid-back parenting style, which I respect, but she doesn't always enforce boundaries the way I would. For example, Ben was allowed to stay up really late the first night playing on his tablet, even though I had work the next day. I didn't say anything, but I was definitely getting a little irritated when I woke up to him still playing on the couch while I tried to get ready for work. The next day, Emma and I planned to spend the afternoon together, maybe go hiking or grab lunch, and I invited Sarah and Ben along. They didn't want to join us, though. Sarah said she'd rather stay in and relax while Ben played with his toys. So Emma and I went out on our own, and when we got back, it was clear that things weren't going well. Ben had made a mess in the living room with his toys, spilled juice on my carpet, and Sarah didn't seem to be doing much to clean up. I get that kids can be messy, but I was a bit frustrated because I've been cleaning up after myself and Emma all weekend, and I wasn't used to having to manage someone else's mess. I asked Sarah if she needed help, and she just kind of shrugged it off, saying, Ben will take care of it later. But later never came. By the evening, I started to feel like I had been the one doing all the hosting. I'd cooked dinner, cleaned up after meals, and tried to keep everything running smoothly, but it felt like Sarah was only half present in terms of contributing to the stay. Now, here's where things get tricky. On the last night of their visit, Sarah mentioned that she needed to get up early the next day to catch her flight and that she would have to leave Ben with me for a few hours while she did some last-minute errands. I was shocked. She didn't ask me beforehand if I was okay with it or anything. I love Ben, but I didn't expect to be responsible for him for another chunk of time. She said she trusted me to take care of him, and I was happy to do it. But at that point, I was really ready for some alone time. Emma and I were supposed to have a quiet evening to ourselves, and it was starting to feel like my space wasn't really my own anymore. So I said, I don't think I can keep Ben overnight. I've got some things I need to take care of tomorrow, and I don't have the energy to keep up with him. Sarah seemed really taken aback, almost hurt, and tried to convince me that it wouldn't be a big deal. She offered to pay me for any inconvenience, which honestly didn't help the situation. I tried to explain that it wasn't about the money, but that I just needed some space and time to relax. After a bit of back and forth, Sarah agreed to take Ben with her and made arrangements for him to stay with a friend for the last night. Everything seemed fine, but the next morning, Sarah seemed cold toward me. She was distant when she said goodbye, and I could tell she was holding something against me. After she left, I messaged her, apologizing if I'd upset her, but I said I had to be honest about how I was feeling. She responded with a long message about how she was disappointed that I didn't support her more as a single mom. She said she'd hoped I'd be more understanding of the difficulties of traveling with a child, and that it hurt her that I couldn't just help out more. She mentioned how she doesn't have a lot of people in her life she can rely on, and it felt like I was abandoning her when she needed help the most. I was really torn. On one hand, I get where she's coming from. Being a single mom is probably exhausting, and I don't want to let her down. But on the other hand, I felt like I had a right to set boundaries in my own home. I've been through a lot in the past few months with work and my own personal stuff, and I honestly just didn't feel like I could handle being responsible for a kid any longer. Now, a few of our mutual friends are chiming in, and I'm hearing both sides of the story. Some think I was right to assert my boundaries, and that Sarah should have been more considerate of my situation, while others think I should have just sucked it up and helped out more, especially since she was a single mom. AITA for not letting Ben stay with me that night? Should I have just taken one for the team and try to be more supportive? Or did I have a right to ask for some space? AITA for refusing to let my sister-in-law move in with us after she broke my trust multiple times? Okay. So, this is a bit of a complicated situation, but here goes. I, 28F, am married to my husband, 30M, and we've been together for 5 years, married for 2. My husband's family is really close-knit, and we get together regularly, especially for holidays and family events. But there's always been some tension between me and my sister-in-law, Lily, 33F. Lily has always been a bit much. She's very outspoken, can be manipulative, and tends to make everything about herself. It's not like I've ever disliked her outright, but she's done things in the past that have rubbed me the wrong way, and over time, it's created some distance between us. A few months ago, Lily's life kind of fell apart. She lost her job, her apartment got sold, and she's been struggling to get back on her feet. I totally understand that life happens, and I genuinely sympathized with her. My husband and I were discussing it one night, and he said that it would be a good idea to offer her a place to stay temporarily. He made it clear it would just be short-term, and I agreed because I didn't want to be heartless. I told him I was open to it, but I wanted to set some ground rules, especially given how things have been with her in the past. For context, Lily has been very invasive in the past. Once she went through my phone when I left it on the kitchen counter just because she was curious about something. Another time, she made a nasty comment about how I decorate our house, saying it looked like I was trying too hard to make it perfect. I've tried to let these things slide, but there's always a sense of her overstepping boundaries, and I've learned to keep my distance. Anyway, she moved in, and things were okay at first. I set up some basic rules. No going through our stuff, respecting our privacy, and pitching in with chores around the house. She agreed, and for the first few weeks, wasn't too bad. However, soon after she settled in, old habits started to resurface. She'd leave her stuff around the house, forget to do the chores we agreed upon, and still make passive-aggressive comments about how our home wasn't her style. I didn't mind too much at first, thinking she was just going through a rough time, but it started to feel disrespectful. The real issue came when she started to be more invasive in my and my husband's relationship. She'd comment on how we spend our money, suggesting that we should be doing more with it, like going on fancy vacations or buying new furniture. She even started making unsolicited comments about our personal lives, like giving advice on how we should handle our finances or what I should be doing with my career. It was honestly starting to feel like I was living with a third, who had no boundaries. Things came to a head one evening when I came home from work and found Lily sitting on the couch in the living room, looking through our wedding photos. She'd even gone so far as to make some comments about my wedding dress, saying it wasn't as pretty as she thought it would be and that I could have gotten a better deal on it. When I asked her why she was looking through our personal things, she dismissed it as just being curious and said I was overreacting. That night, I lost it. I told my husband that I didn't want Lily living with us anymore, that it had gone too far, and that she'd broken my trust multiple times. My husband tried to play the mediator and told me to be patient because she was going through a hard time. But I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being disrespected in my own home. The next day, I had a serious conversation with Lily. I told her that she needed to start looking for a place of her own. I explained that while I understood she was going through a tough time, her behavior had been inappropriate, and I wasn't comfortable with her staying any longer. She got upset, saying I was being too harsh and that I was turning my back on family. She said that I was being selfish and that it wasn't like I had to live with her permanently, just until she got back on her feet. My husband was furious with me. He said I was being too quick to kick her out and that I was letting my feelings get in the way of helping family. He said that I should try harder to understand what she was going through and that kicking her out could make things worse for her. He even told me that if I really wanted to help, I should be more patient and accommodating. But I just couldn't justify putting up with her behavior anymore. Now, my in-laws are upset with me too. They think I should have been more supportive and that I should have sucked it up for the sake of family. They've all been giving me passive-aggressive comments about how family is supposed to help each other, and it's not like you'll have to live with her forever. But I feel like I've already been more than patient, and I've let her get away with too much. I'm worried that if I let her stay any longer, it'll just get worse, and she'll keep disrespecting me in my space. My husband and I are at a standstill. He says that I should have tried harder to make it work, but I'm firm on my decision to ask her to leave. I feel like I've given enough chances, and I don't want to keep enabling her behavior. It's causing tension in my marriage, and I'm genuinely feeling torn. So, AITA for asking my sister-in-law to move out after she broke my trust multiple times. Thank you for watching until the end. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss new videos. Also, leave a comment. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Your support and engagement mean a lot to me. See you in the next video.